What's going on?
I asked you all here because by midnight, I'm going to die.
What? Dad, you look fine. What did the doctor say?
I didn't say I was sick.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2024 horror film The Inheritance. The film is directed by Alejandro Bruges and it stars Peyton List, Rachel Nichols, Austin Stowell, Bob Gunton, David Walton and Brianna Middleton. Right, the film focuses on a group of very wealthy siblings. They turn up to their father's mansion on his 75th birthday, as they have all been summoned there by him. When they all get there, they think they're there to celebrate his birthday, but in actual fact, he makes a startling announcement that by midnight that night, he's set to die. And they've all been brought there to stop this from happening, and if they don't stop it from happening, none of them will receive their inheritance, which amounts to billions for each of them, basically. So none of them have a choice. They're all locked in, and they all have to try and keep their father alive. However, what's coming for him might actually not be a physical entity at all. Right, what are my thoughts on The Inheritance? Well, I mean, this film is a perfectly watchable film from pretty much every aspect. I mean, it's got a good level of polish, it's got a good budget to it, it's got a decent cast, it's got a decent premise as well. It's always nice seeing Bob Gunton in films, you know, one of the greatest villains of all time in Shawshank. And, you know, it's one of those films that you can kind of put on and kind of comfortably sit back and know you're probably going to be reasonably entertained with it, if not gobsmacked or terrified or really surprised by it. And that is really the best compliment that I can give this film. It's all of those things. It's perfectly watchable. It has some fine moments in it, in a sense of, you know, the effects and all that kind of stuff. When you get them, are of a decent standard. It does a good job of kind of building the film up to be some kind of whodunit initially. Almost like, you know, because we know kind of whodunits are really popular at the minute. Well, it tries to kind of start the film by going down that route and then kind of twists and turns it into something supernatural. And that's not really spoiling the film because it makes it very clear in the trailer when you watch the trailer. So in my opinion, if they're happy to put things like that in a trailer, then I'm happy to kind of talk about certain aspects of the film. And, you know, it could have done more, in my opinion, on like building the distrust and the angst between the siblings. It just didn't do enough there for me. You know, some of the best horror films out there are just magical because they pull on the tension strings, and you know you don't know who to trust, the sort of thing. And again, this film kind of hinted that it was going that direction, but then it kind of swerves to another, and it doesn't kind of commit hard enough down there. And I think if they had have done and kind of waited before the actual reveal of the film as to, you know, who's coming to get Bob Gunton, I think the film would have benefited far more from it, and it would have been more tension filled, and it would have made you kind of analyze the characters a little bit more, you know, and but it just doesn't do it. It kind of gives a bit of a cheap exit, I suppose, or a cheap outcome, that while it's mildly interesting, you know, the reason why they're all there, and you know who starts kind of taking them out and stuff. It's for me, it wasn't as interesting, I think, as what the film could have been. Certainly in my opinion anyway. But it's, as I've said, it's perfectly watchable. And it's one of those films that you kind of know within 10 minutes of putting it on, you've got a decent idea of the quality of the film and what to kind of expect from it. And then, you know, it kind of dangles the whodunit string for a bit of a carrot for a good 20 minutes or so. And then beyond that, it kind of is everything that it kind of pretends to be, or everything it's telling you it's going to be. This film, unfortunately, it doesn't subvert your expectations. It doesn't give you any weird twists. It doesn't give you what you would describe as real scares. And again, I don't mind it when a film kind of starts off one way and you're kind of into that. If it goes another way, as this film does, it goes like a supernatural route. That would have been fine if it had really tried to scare the pants off me. But it's hard to really say that this film was frightening at all. And part of that is because, you know, the scares weren't effective enough. And also part of it is most of the people who are being targeted by whatever's going on, you don't really have much time for them anyway. There's only really two characters in this film that kind of you root for, I suppose. Everybody else seemed very self-centered and all that kind of stuff, and then we get to the kind of the ending, and for me, and obviously I'm not going to spoil the ending, but for me, kind of the reasoning and the motive for a character to kind of do what they did in this film it didn't add up to me, you know, why somebody would do what they would do. And I can't obviously explore that further because I don't want to spoil it, but it made me kind of question why someone would do any of the things that they chose to do in this film. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth checking out. I would probably score this just above average sort of thing. I didn't dislike it, but at the end of the day, when the film ended and I turned it off, it's not one of those films that is particularly memorable after. It's not one of those films that, you know, you talk about or think about thinking, yeah, that was a good film, wasn't it? It just kind of does enough to, you know, make you think, yeah, okay, that's watchable, but I'll probably never watch it again, and I'll probably never recommend it to anybody. But for you guys out there that like a nicely made, decent budgeted horror film with a good, decent cast, you know, and an interesting idea, you could probably do far worse than this one, that's for sure. So thanks for joining me for this review. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. I will, of course, be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.